Good morning. How are you? Good. Tired. Uh, all right. So it's nice to be speaking at the end because you try to see what people are saying, kind of agree with them or disagree with them. And good thing is like when you're in the end, you can formulate your ideas and tell what you agree or not. So one thing, I mean, we've been having a lot of fascinating conversation on what is craft, right? And so this is something I've been very deeply interested in. Like Tabat said, art can be healing. Art is not, craft is not just an economic activity, right? Yeah, it's not just an activity. Like many times we've seen, like you go to a craft community, you like their order, and you say, okay, I want to buy 100 pieces of this. They might not be interested, right? And this is, I've talked to many people who work with craft, and yeah, it's not, people are not building it only for sake of selling it. They're doing it for the identity. It is for the creativity. It's their, and also, like she said, it's also healing. And art, craft as a healing medium is known, right? And also, what I found with me working with community is that art as a form of resistance, right? Art is saying that I do not want to be part of your capitalist system. I want to produce things on my own terms, right? Um, so this is something I will talk about. So just to give you a context, I'm sure you know where Nepal is. It's in between Tibet and India. And so there's a lot of resources here, and major resources are forest. So I work in this area called Chitwan, and this has been, traditionally people have been living here. There's two groups of people who were living here for hundreds of years, but other people could not come because there was malaria. And it was mostly Tharu community or Chepang community who were living there. And then this area has been very contested since the colonial times. This area has got a lot of wood, hardwood. And the British came here to use the wood to make the railroads. You know, these sal wood. It's very durable. It can sit underwater for years and is still all right. And then the Americans came, and then they brought in DDT, and they spread DDT over here, so it becomes to develop as a development model. And then started their agriculture system, you know. And then there was a lot of deforestation, and then they declared this area to be a national park. So what is national park? It means like the community that were living there for generations are kicked out in the name of conservation, right? So it is happening as we speak. You know, there's every month, like if communities are living in resources in an area that has wood or all these resources, then they expand the national park, and then these people are kicked out. So what is craft? So I'll tell you a story of this amazing lady that we work with, Manmaya. She is Chepang. Traditionally, she's been, these communities are nomadic. They move from one area to other. But because of government regulation, they're like, no, you can't be nomadic. You stay in one area. And then they were staying in Chitwan National Park. But now they're saying, oh, this is protected area, so you cannot go and cut wood, right? So, and when these people have so much skills, like they do bamboo weaving, wood turning, and all this stuff, but since they do not have access to the resources, they're craft is dying, right? And so it's really unfortunate. Like, so just 2 months ago, she was kicked out of the forest. And she lives in this beautiful forest, but she cannot use the forest, and she has to live in this really like subhuman condition, you know? I mean, like around here, it's all beautiful forest, you know? But she cannot cut the wood. So she has to use twigs and like hay and stuff to build structures. So what is craft? This is my perspective. This is not. So it is an intersection between resources and community, right? What is resources? For me, it is forest. So all these traditional communities are dependent on forest, on wood. You know, wood is such a, like she was saying, it's a very spiritual material. You know, you go to a room and you see a beautiful piece of furniture, you have like, by your intuition, you go and touch it, because, you know, there's that connection. And so all this craft, wherever, like it's in the Philippines or everywhere, it's the wood that people were using for generations. And because of our global narrative of conservation, now climate change, like people do not have access to wood, right? Let me tell you something, like I've also heard a few conversation here. Wood is the best, most sustainable material that is available. You know, concrete doesn't grow back, steel doesn't grow back, but wood can grow back. Like you leave an area for 25 years, it regenerates, right? Plastic doesn't regenerate, steel doesn't regenerate. And in this intersection, so this so through colonization, through now neoliberalization, like the access to resources, to the forest is shrinking. So the craft is definitely shrinking, right? What is craft? It's the food, it's shelter, it's clothing, right? These are the few things we've been discussing about. And then there's mobility. So these things people had control over, like traditionally. But now, as we know, through Monsanto, our food is in control over corporations. Shelter, the same thing. Clothing, and also mobility. If we had maybe also communication, if we can craft our system of talking. But I think if these 4 things we have control over, that's when we become sustainable. And when I talk about community, I'm talking about local community at this moment. So over years, we've been working with mostly in shelter, because that's our forte. So this is, traditionally in Nepal we have, it's in between, as I said, between Tibet and Nepal. So there is a lot of climatic difference, a lot of geographic difference. And people are building beautiful houses with traditional materials according to the climate, right? And if it's in the mountains, they use this beautiful stonework with like bands to make it earthquake resistant. Or if they're in the plains, they're using wood and bamboo, and they're doing that beautiful plaster work. And like every year, it's maintenance, as we see it, is not seen as a chore, but it's a ritual. Like every year after monsoon, they're painting their house. This is in 2008, 2009. There's monsoon, it gets washed off, but then they do painting again. So it's a community work. It's a beautiful craft. But unfortunately, these craft, and also there's this bridge we have using wood, rattan, bamboo, and they make this beautiful bridge. But again, as I said earlier, the access to these resources are shrinking. The stewardship of the forest is not with the community anymore. It is with the state, and eventually with a bigger corporation. So the craft is shrinking. And so before they were building beautiful houses and building beautiful bridges, now they have to cross bridges like this because they can't cut wood, right? And this is a very common. It's not photoshopped. You know, it happens. Like people have to, they're crossing the bridge, and you can't cut cane anymore, wood anymore, so they have to hang a steel cable, and then you're just, you know, crossing this, and it's very scary. And if you look at the data in Nepal, like in housing, still many times there are regions where cement is as little as 1%, 2%, and overall it's only 17%. The rest of the resources are like shelters is made with traditional materials, and wood is a very important part of it. Like these areas have more than 75% of these structures built with. So so my hypothesis is if you give people resources, raw material, we do not need to go and build houses for them. They are totally capable of building it themselves, and they do beautiful houses. But now wood is considered protected, so now they have to they're building with this concrete. Concrete is considered sustainable than wood. And this is Kathmandu. You know, like 30 years ago, people came to Kathmandu as Shangri-La. You know, like the word Kathmandu actually means, Kat means wood, and Mandu is the place, right? So there are beautiful temples with wood, and now it's all, you cannot build with it, and now you have this ugly concrete sprawl. And there's, you know, like people have advocated wood as concrete as being a solution for everything. But last earthquake we saw, like in certain regions, even concrete buildings collapsed, right? While traditional buildings, this is a building from epicenter of the earthquake, they survived, you know. So in this context, you know, wood is not allowed, you know, so we're trying to find an alternative to wood, and which is bamboo. So as a social enterprise, we're taking these bamboo and putting it to a new context and seeing how like it can address certain challenges that are out there. And bamboo is a really great material because it grows fast. It can grow up to 1 meter in a day. And its strength can compare to steel. Right? It's an amazing material. And everything in bamboo can be used. It's like the roots, shoots can be used for food. I don't think I have to say much about bamboo in the Philippines because yeah, it's part of life, as in other parts of Asia. So first we started with, so we took a certain degraded land, you know, like this. And so first, before building with bamboo, we had to create a strong source of supply. Really, already 5 minutes? I thought I had 30 minutes. All right, So we've been like doing a lot of reforestation program with bamboo. So this is a river bed. You know, they cut down all the wood because they spread DDT and they wanted to promote modern form of agriculture. So the government was like promoting deforestation in the 70s. And then there's this area, you know, the flood happens like this all the time. Like this is white deposits are all sand. Then we started planting bamboo, this, and it's become a forest. This is within 5-6 years. So I'll be a little bit quicker now. So bamboo is, so we've been like using these bamboos to make community buildings because we feel people are capable of building their own house if you give them resources, but maybe they need certain helps to make certain community structures, right? So we build, so we're building like a bamboo, like these are community halls. And then I was building a school using stone and bamboo. This was in a really remote area. It was in Gorkha. And it was so far, you have to walk almost like 6-7 hours from the nearest road. We built this building, and after this I was like tired. Okay, this is a great cause, but I don't think I can do this all my life. But incidentally, what happened, happened to be right at the epicenter of the earthquake. It was not by design. And so 4 years ago, there was a big earthquake, everything collapsed, but this building survived, right? Thank you. So it was, and so it was kind of like a vindication, you know, like in our modern engineering way of thinking, oh, you cannot build with traditional material, it is weak, it will go bad, it will. So, but we kind of like proved that using just local materials, you can build safe, modern structures, you know, like, so we did beautiful like earth painting, so non-toxic painting. So everything was like locally sourced. And there was a big moment of victory because before people thought our ideas were good, but it was not scalable. Or so we designed a school. We designed an open source school design, and then put this design on websites and newspapers, and then make people use it. And so we just took a normal traditional design of a government school, very conventional design, but added some certain insulation, like earthen walls, and you know, to make it more sustainable. And then we changed some design to, we added some play space, so when it's too hot, they can go be inside and play. And we played with the permutation of the classroom, so it's more interactive. So it's just using this, everything that was available. We trained a lot of men, women in earth building. So we have this simple machine, which is also open source, so which you just take some clay and add some lime stabilization. We put it here, and then you make these bricks. And doing this, we built a lot of schools after the earthquake. These are earth walls. There's bamboo. So this is the inside. You know, you have a bamboo roof. It's very nice and cool to be inside. And then we made bamboo furniture. So the beauty of this thing is 89% of all the cost is local cost, right? It's only about 11% that we use cement. And then we built houses for, you know, we didn't want, we gave examples of small, simple earthquake-resistant houses. And a lot of people copied that design, you know, like on their own. It was really beautiful. But again, we are fighting for resources because now the government came and subsidized bricks, which is the most polluting material ever. So we could not compete with the bricks, the burnt bricks. You know. And after that, you know, it was a big, a lot of people like that we were getting trust. So we designed a public library in Kathmandu. Before we were like, nobody trusted us, so we were building in like really remote areas. So we built a public library right in the center of Kathmandu, you know, after the earthquake. So there's a lot of trust. And after that, we doing more structure, more people are interested. So this is another school. This technique is called a rammed earth technique. So you just use some earth from the ground, if it's good. and just put it in a formwork and tamp it. Yeah? So here's some of the, you can get these patterns, using different clay, bamboo. Also, yeah, so a lot of like creating this enterprise, so like people are, and giving them different housing options. And also the other thing we are really excited about now is, okay, we have house, now we are getting into mobility. Once we have that, we don't need the capitalist anymore. So yeah, so we are designing this. Even the suspension is made with bamboo because it's such a flexible material, right? So we did this. There's a dirt bike we are making. Yeah, it's electric, and this other design. And also, we like when we are in free time, like we make these greenhouses. So we're promoting rooftop gardening. So all the community members that we train are building these structures. And so coming back to housing, so like as I said, if you give people resources, they can build on their own. So this, like see, all like this is the same. We built this model house for the people who I talked about, this Chepang group, who were recently kicked out of the forest. So they are building, like, you know, using bamboo. So they are building their houses on their own, right? I mean, so we're empowering them, like through crafts, and once we do that, once we give them skills, we can just back off, you know, because bamboo is readily available. But still, I mean, there's a lot of politics involved in getting bamboo and like all the regulation. But if there wasn't much greed from the other side, I think people would be living in these beautiful houses. So with that, I wrap up because I'm getting that. Okay, thank you.